Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some pretty much revenge stories. It's a collection of pro-revenge, petty revenge, and, just whatever I could scrounge up and find for y'all. As per usual, I'll be giving my opinions, and I hope you do so in the comments down below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. JWZBB. Aggressive call center got a taste of their own medicine. So I enrolled in an Instagram contest giving my details in order to win a home security system. This was a bit dumb on my part, but the way their salespeople approached me was uncalled for. For weeks, I got called every hour, and when I picked up, they hung up. I blocked the number, and they started dialing me with a different number. At some point, I finally got someone on the line, asked them politely to please don't call me again and remove my number. They didn't. I used to work in business-to-business sales and even in a business-to-client call center, so I generally am open to talking to sales. However, this dialer was set very aggressively. For those of you who don't know how call center dialers work, a system calls you first, and when you pick up, check if an agent is available. If no agent is available, they hang up. That makes a lot of sense. This is to keep agents busy as much as possible at the expense of the people in the list. So because I got sick of their aggressive dialer method and they didn't remove my number, I wanted revenge. I looked up all the phone numbers of the employees I could find, and I'm quite good at this, and created my own list. In this list, I had the CEO, the CFO, the COO, VP of Sales, VP of Marketing, and all of the people I could find in my country on LinkedIn. I didn't discriminate. Interns, HR, legal, everyone with a LinkedIn profile I've added to my list. In comes the petty revenge. I've opened a clean virtual machine, used a VPN, created a fake Instagram profile, and subscribed everyone in the 50-person list to the same Instagram contest. Just imagine some sales agent calling and hanging up the CEO of a global home security company multiple times for days, only to be confronted with an annoyed boss of their boss's boss trying to pitch their services. Not to mention all the employees I've added. They probably don't know it was me, and after a couple of weeks, I learned you can block a range of phone numbers after which the calling stopped. It's too bad I couldn't witness the calls myself, but I can imagine at some point they got some calls from employees who got sick of it and had to create a blacklist. As juicy as this is, and it definitely gave them a nice taste of their own medicine, it's not going to stop them, unfortunately. I don't blame the people within the call center for doing their job because everyone needs to be able to make their money. I blame the company and the overly aggressive playbook they seem to have established. Hell, in the past, like 5 years ago with Calica TV, I even covered r/tales from call centers. The problem comes in when someone asks you to stop calling them and you continue to do so. That's where the line gets drawn. I'd actually be really curious if anyone who does work in a call center is sees this part of the video. When someone does ask you to remove their number from the list, is there like a higher up that tells you not to do so, or is there some kind of system that blocks you from removing the number, or is it just a pain in the ass from an archaic system that is a pain to use, and every time you have to use it, it takes away from your time that you could be calling people, so oftentimes it's disincentivized, or is there other things in place, or is it just only the shitty ones that don't remove the numbers? I'd be really curious. Hot dog water, 88888. Spam callers are annoying, but two can play at that game. This is my favorite way to make scammers, telemarketers, or debt collectors stop calling me. It works damn near every time, and I get a lot of enjoyment from it. Once a scam company or caller tries to call me more than once, it's game on. Once I answer and they state their reason for calling, I tell them they've reached the local florist company and that I'm currently running a promotion on bouquets. They usually attempt to ignore me and talk about their scam, but I don't let go of my sales pitch. I ignore everything they say and repeatedly only answer them with, "So, are you interested in purchasing?" Or I talk about whatever fake promotions like 50% off or something. After around 2 to 3 rounds of this, they usually get annoyed and hang up, but the party's just getting started. Hanging up isn't enough. You're gonna block me today, baby. I then start calling them over and over, telling them that this is the local florist and that I'm trying to reach customers about a current promotion. It usually only takes a couple of times before they get extremely mad and block me. Once they block me from that number, sometimes I'll even go back to other numbers they use and harass them on those until I'm blocked from every number they have ever called me from. Honestly, I'm in full support of this because every time that you're wasting their time, that's time taken away from them scamming someone who doesn't recognize they're dealing with a scam call. Nowadays, the National Do Not Call Registry doesn't do shit. I currently have some let me actually just look up the name of them right now. Phone numbers, recent. Clean Start, that's the company that calls me 6 times a fucking day. I have every single time answered them and told them to not contact this number any longer. I just don't have the time to fuck with them currently, but God, I am itching to fuck with them. They haven't called me recently, which is kind of disappointing, but oh my God. Next time I get my hands on them, I swear to God. Wusselpump. Landlord wanted us to pay for renovation when moving out. He paid dearly instead. This happened a couple of years ago when my wife and I were moving out of our previous apartment, so moving day comes. Landlord shows up and we walk through the whole apartment with him to hand it over. Even though he has some minor complaints in the end, he agrees to refund the deposit in full and we part on good terms. A couple of days pass and we get a long, angry voicemail claiming he was renovating and noticed that the room was my former office and smells extremely bad, claiming our cats would have urinated in there repeatedly and we would need to come back and renovate the room ourselves or otherwise he'd get a health inspector, contractors, etc., all on our dime to fix it. And he means tearing down wallpapers, replacing the wood flooring, painting the walls, etc., etc. My wife and I are dumbfounded. We do have cats, don't get me wrong, so we didn't just dismiss it outright, but we realized that this is basically impossible as I used the room every day and we had the apartment professionally cleaned before handing it back, and there's just no way that what he's describing was there when we left. Maybe it was a raccoon that had gotten in during the days the apartment was empty or whatever, but it wasn't our fault either way. So we call him to let him know that we won't cover it, and he gets really nasty, making all kinds of claims about the state of the apartment, about how he would twist everything and how he would make sure we would pay for this. After 10 minutes of back and forth, I just hang up on him. Expecting a massive bill to arrive at any point after this left us anxious and really started to mess with our heads during this time. And of course, we don't get our deposit back either. Because of this whole ordeal and seeing my wife being worried about this all the time, I start to become really angry and dive a little deeper into our options. I discover that where we live, if a landlord does not formally claim a reason for holding back a deposit within 6 months of the end of the lease, they are by law required to refund it. So I figured that revenge is a dish best served cold and we just need to wait it out for another 3 months or so, and after that, it's our turn. I calculate the exact date when the 6 months have passed, and 1 day later, just message him to please refund the deposit within 2 weeks. He just replies, "Yeah, sure, buddy." So we wait. No money comes. Then we sent a formal letter, setting a second deadline. Again, nothing happens. I was actually hoping for that at this point, so we hire an attorney and let her collect the money on our behalf. The landlord starts claiming all kinds of ridiculous damages, etc., which would let him keep the deposit, which the attorney simply dismisses as the time for claims has passed. Then, for some reason, he pays only 80% or so of the amount due, so the attorney has to get at it again for the full amount. Apparently, he's not realizing that all of this is incurring hourly costs for the attorney, which he also has to pay, as he's legally liable to refund. So in the end, he pays the full deposit, interest, and a massive bill for our lawyer far higher than the deposit. Needless to say, we're very happy with the outcome. Once everything is settled, my wife and I just sat in our new home's garden, had a glass of wine, and burned the old rental agreement while planning how to spend the deposit. As difficult as it is, being patient and biding your time until the 6 months was over was definitely the right choice here, because if he did not give, which he obviously didn't, the details in writing, there was no official reason for withholding the deposit. After that phone call, that landlord should have pretty much given a per our last conversation email with the full list and descriptions of the things that he had found, and that would have actually cemented him for wrongfully obtaining that deposit in full. However, he did not do that. He probably just assumed that they wouldn't actually look into the law for it and that he got away with it scot-free, and, well, didn't quite work in his favor for that one. And I definitely do agree with the title considering what the landlord was talking about having to replace. It sounds more like he just wanted them to pay for the renovations than actually repair the damages that would have been caused by cat urine. And not to mention, if it was actually cat urine, he should have been easily been able to prove that by just simply having someone who deals with pet stains come in, get a black light, point it at the cat urine spots, take a photo, here's where your cat pissed, you gotta repair that. Boom, done, handled, bada booey. But doesn't sound like that happened. Shaxay, I think that's how you say that. It's S-H-A-X-A-I, so I can only imagine. Don't want to sell me a bagel? Bet. I went to a coffee shop with a friend about a year ago, and I wasn't too hungry but wanted a quick bite. It was early, and I don't eat too heavily in the morning, so when I approached the counter, I ordered my coffee and a bagel with cream cheese. The barista told me the bagel was on the kids' menu, and therefore I couldn't order it. I asked for clarity and confirmed it was a regular-sized bagel, and asked her, so you'd rather I not order anything? The other options on the menu were full of breakfast meals, skillets, etc. Then give you business because of a silly rule. She gave me a very snide, yep, so I laughed and said, okay, and sat down. I explained to my friend what had just transpired, and she said, nah, I have an idea. She proceeds to put in a DoorDash order for one bagel to be picked up. We keep an eye on the counter, and sure enough, I see the bagel ready to be picked up. I approach the counter and ever so kindly ask for my DoorDash order for name. The same barista tosses the bagel at me without saying a word and walks away. Very weird hill for them to die on, especially because bagels are such a common breakfast item, so it was odd to limit it to children, and I could understand wanting to sell the more expensive breakfast meals instead, but seriously? You're not gonna sell me a bagel? For what? I should have known the vibes were off the moment I walked in and the entire coffee shop was that live, laugh, love barn door aesthetic too. I can almost guarantee that barista was doing that more out of petty because that's a really dumb hill to die on, because for starters, you don't know if they're ordering that for their child who's in the car or, who's just somewhere else and they're planning on taking home. You don't know what's going on with that. There are so many options that could be going on there that just seems really dumb to deny someone a goddamn bagel. I fucking love bagels. Like a plain bagel with like a flavored cream cheese. Oh my god, that's like wonderful to have in the morning. Not only is that just a really odd hill to just have for the business in general that bagels are a kid's item, especially when many adults would prefer to have a bagel instead of a full meal for the exact reasons specified in this post, but then to refuse service? I mean, for the DoorDash option, that's even weirder too, because they can't confirm if you're a kid or not when you order the bagel. And I really do wonder if, like, maybe this barista was just having a really shitty morning and just taking it on customers. Doesn't excuse anything, but this just seems like such a weird business practice to have in place. What a little ghoul. Boy, idiot. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be boy idiot, but it's spelled like an affront to God, B-O-Y-I-D-I-D-I-T. But still, speed limit is 5 miles an hour. So I drive a semi-truck and love where I work. All of the guys are really nice, and most everyone in office is nice, except for a few. One of those is a guy that's a yard supervisor, and he only recently acquired the position. Now, most of us don't fly through the yard, but 5 miles an hour feels really slow when you have almost a 2 square mile area. Like, it's a rule, but nobody follows it. Our lot is a gravel lot and has a lot of dust in the summer when it doesn't rain. One day, me and a few drivers come in to drop off our loads and get the next task. It's like 12. We all get to where we're dropping our trailer and are unhooking, and he comes flying up to us to use his yard/pickup truck, and he starts hollering at us because we're not doing the posted 5 mile an hour speed limit. We all exchange glances with each other because obviously he was just going faster than that. We all just agreed and said okay sorry and let him have his power trip. Cue petty. I decided since we had to do 5 miles an hour, I was going to make him hate it as much as we did. All of the company trucks are equipped with a switch to turn off the engine fan to keep the engine cool in traffic. It also blows a lot of dust and turns on automatically when the engine reaches a certain temperature. At the middle point in our lot is where our guard/supervisor has to check in the truck trailers, which involves getting in the trailer and being outside. So I turned my engine fan on and proceeded to reel at a pace of 2 miles an hour all the way through the lot and kick up as much dust as possible. You could see it collect on my windshield. It was so bad. By the time I got to him, there was enough dust that you would think there was a bad windstorm or something. He later came to me and the other guys and said something about us driving too slow and purposely kicking up dust. We all just mentioned the 5 mile an hour speed limit. We've done this all week to him. Bet he loves his job now. So I've never been in like a managerial position before. I've mostly been in team lead positions. So I don't really have enough experience to really comment on this in full. So I would maybe like some additions in the comments. That'd be pretty poggers. But what I can say though, 5 miles an hour to cross a 2 mile lot is agony. I mean, you're looking at around 20 to 30 minutes just to get across the lot right there. That is, oh my god. I think the biggest problem here comes from the hypocrisy of the manager, because if he was abiding by the 5 miles an hour and just gave a simple reminder, hey guys, remember it's 5 miles an hour out here, and then left at a reasonable pace, I think that would be one thing. But for him to storm up, speeding, slam on the brakes, stop, and get out and yell at people, especially when he was just put into a position of power, that's definitely gonna cause some discontent with the people he's now put into positions of power over. Meomuchi, told the family that stole my water bottle that I had an STI. See, my dumb ass, my car-loving ass, I thought they were bragging about having a Subaru for a little bit, and I was really confused, and then I realized that most humans don't think the way that I do, and they meant the other STI. What an unfortunate naming convention for a car to have. Anyways, reposted because I was told to be better suited for this subreddit instead. Context: I, 22 female, work in an amusement park during the summer holidays to make some extra cash on the side. My job role involves checking people's tickets, placing them onto the ride, checking some safety restraints, and watching over the ride course in case of an emergency happening. While I was checking safety restraints, I noticed that one of the customers had stolen my water bottle. The man stole my water bottle and passed it to his wife, who then gave it to their child daughter. I briefly noticed it happen out of the corner of my eye. I don't know what came over me. I guess I was just tired due to having to deal with countless tired, exhausted, and cranky guests, and I thought the family needed to learn a lesson to not steal people's water bottles. I walked up to the man and told him that he shouldn't have stolen it. He looked panicked and apologized and asked if I wanted it back. I declined and I said that for his information, I have mouth herpes, before showing him a mouth ulcer I had, not from herpes, but from accidentally biting my mouth while eating. He looked panicked and then told his wife, who broke down sobbing, and she called me an asshole. While telling my friends and family about this, they all seemed rather split. Some of my friends thought it was a really funny prank to pull, while a lot of others and my family think that while the family was in the wrong to steal my property in broad daylight, I shouldn't have given the family such a scare from a serious disease. Some questions I got asked on the original post and I couldn't answer. Was it a disposable or refillable water bottle? It was a $10 refillable water bottle. I remember a commenter asking on the original post if it was a Stanley or another trendy water bottle of sorts. It isn't. I don't get paid enough to afford a glorified $50 cup. How do you know he stole your water bottle? Is it possible he thought it was lost? My water bottle has a rather unique design. I got it while on vacation in Japan, and the design is very cute. Definitely kid-like to some extent, which could explain the reasoning as to why he stole it. I doubt he thinks it was lost property, because why would you drink out of a water bottle that you're going to return to a lost property anyways? Where was it located? While the ride is operating, I stand near the electrical booth, close to the ride exit. The bottle is located in a small corner in a rather obscure location. If someone were to try and take it, they would have to go on the ride to access the exit, and since you can see the exit from the entrance queue, the family would have definitely seen me drink out of it at least once. Also, other than the occasional 2 minutes I'm away, I'm always either standing near the bottle or holding it out, drinking from it. Edit, forgot I had too long, didn't read. Stranger steals my water bottle and gives it to his kid. I show them a mouth ulcer, aka canker sore, sometimes confused for oral herpes, but it's different, and lie to them, telling them it's an STI. Family flips out on me. As someone who gets common canker sores, I definitely understand that. The worst one I've ever had was on the actual jaw hinge of my mouth, so every time I would open my mouth, it would strain the canker sore. That was probably the worst month of my life. And second, oral herpes isn't like a dangerous disease. You're not gonna die from it. It's embarrassing, yeah, and it can sometimes be painful, but it's not a serious infection, and according to WebMD, ooh, scary, I know, WebMD, the longer you have it, the less often you'll get flare-ups. In the end, there is no harm done in the prank beyond the scare and probably ruining that family's vacation, which they shouldn't have stolen a water bottle. But truth being, if they did steal someone's water bottle who did have an STI, the results would have been the same. Just in this case, they got a very harsh learning lesson that had no consequences to it besides a momentary scare, and that's pretty much it. I personally don't see a problem with OP here telling them that they had an STI. You have a Subaru? Oh, it's sick. Crumbling ruin. Loud neighbors got silenced. I used to live in a basement flat in Brighton. I'm going to pull the American ignorance card and not even bother Googling that to see if I pronounce it correctly. Rah, eagle noise. Anyways, a city notorious for lots of young people who love to party. The flat directly above mine was rented, with the tenants changing often. One summer, 2 young men moved in and immediately had a very loud, very busy party. That's fine, within reason, but this party was still going at 2 in the morning on a Sunday night, and we had to be up for work in the morning. My partner went downstairs, knocked on their door, and asked them to keep the noise down. They muttered something and slammed the door in his face. Needless to say, nothing changed. By 2:30 a.m., we had enough and decided to take action. A weird feature of our building was that everyone's electric meters and boards were in one utility room, with access via a locked door from the outside alley. What the people living above didn't know is that we also had access to that room via an internal door from our flat, so I slipped into the room and flipped the main power switch to their flat into the off position, killing their electricity supply instantly. The noise stopped and there was a lot of shouting from upstairs. They were in the dark, in silence, with no idea what had happened. A few minutes later, we heard the outside door of the utility room being unlocked and opened, and they located their meter board and turned their power back on. Soon afterwards, the thumping music started again. And again, I flipped their switch. After 3 rounds of this, they must have assumed that their music equipment was overloading their ring main. And they gave up and everyone left. Result: we were never bothered in this way again, and they moved out 6 months later. I'm like 99% sure that this is a crime, but hey, they committed the crime first. Here in America, we got a little something called disturbing the peace. Rah! I'm sorry. I think both parties here definitely committed crimes, but this is petty revenge. The whole point of it is you get revenge on the person who's fucking with you, and in this case, you ask them kindly, and unreasonable measures had to be taken, such as flipping their power off. You could have also just taken the approach of buying a cheap and shitty subwoofer, and positioning it so that way it's blasting right into their ceiling, floor, or however it's connected. You might need to do some rearranging of furniture to do so, and play something with a lot of bass, preferably Russian hard bass, because that's the most aggressive thing that I can think of off the top of my head, or anything with obnoxious bass, honestly. Something that would make a Honda Civic sound system cry as the interior dash rattles itself into pieces. That's the kind of music you gotta put on. And then give them a taste of their own medicine. Yeah, the only downside to this one is, it also affects you, so do it when you're not at home. Do some investigating, figure out their schedule, specifically find times when you're not at home and they are. And then that's when the chaos begins. Person Dude 27, eBay mishandling stolen equipment, or don't mess with the postal inspectors. I work with a company that times races, running, cycling, triathlon, etc. The owner is a guy named John who works at Race Timing Co., both made-up names. At a race, some equipment was stolen. It's expensive equipment, but extremely specialty. Maybe 200 people in the US use this system, and the components cost about $1,000 each, for a total of about $4,000. About a month later, the stolen equipment popped up on eBay. John reached out to the seller via eBay and asked his stolen equipment to be returned. The seller was a jerk, as might be expected from someone selling stolen equipment would be. He said there is no way you would know it's your equipment. The thing is, Photo 3 showed one of the boxes with a printed label on it. Race Timing Co., John owner, John's phone number. It literally had his name on it. So, John escalated to eBay to at least prevent his stolen equipment from being sold. eBay totally dropped the ball. They bought the seller's story that he had bought it at a mail auction for lost mail, which made no sense since the seller's info was in the same town where the equipment was stolen. The seller also tried to claim that John had no way of proving it was his stolen equipment, except, it has his name and phone number on it. John had no evidence the seller hadn't bought it, had a mail auction, and ruled against John. So, John hatched a plan. He did what any rational person would do. He purchased his own stolen equipment back, using an employee's name, and asked that to be shipped to USPS. He was right next to the post office, he said. And that's when the pro-revenge comes into play. It's a felony to knowingly traffic stolen items. So, John waited patiently as his equipment was marked shipped, and ended up arriving at his coworker's house, in another state for good measure. And John called the Postal Inspection Service. He had the seller's full name, address, and proof that he knew it was stolen. He had police reports, pictures of his name on the equipment, matching serial numbers, transcripts of him informing the seller that it was stolen, etc. The USPS inspectors knocked on the guy's door 2 days later and reportedly found numerous stolen items. He was charged with almost a dozen federal felonies, including felony theft, trafficking stolen goods across state lines, and lying to federal agents. And to top it all off, John filed a stolen goods complaint with eBay since he now had tons of proof that he had been sold stolen goods. So he got his money back, minus shipping. Honestly, I'm not surprised because eBay does not have a good track record, like in my personal experience with shit. And the fact that you can literally point to your name being on an item and be like, hey, they stole it, my name's in the photos, and they're not doing shit about it because you can't prove that you didn't sell it? How are you supposed to do that? Like, not only is eBay pretty much home of the scalper, but there's also just a lot of other circumstances that happen on that site which really raise a lot of questions. A really good example of this is the eBay stalking scandal that happened earlier last year. Basically, long story short, a couple who ran an e-commerce blog posted a negative view about eBay, and the executives at eBay funded a multi-year-long harassment campaign to ruin this couple's life because of that negative blog review. It's because of this that eBay's entire executive leadership has changed guard, and there's been a lot of changes within the company itself. Don't forget, this is brought to you by GamerSupps. Use code ODDS at checkout. It's basically a caffeine powder that you put in your water, and I actually really like it. I use this on a daily basis. Don't forget that every purchase you make using code ODDS directly supports the channel. And if you want a personal recommendation from me, I would either recommend the Soda Pressing Pear or Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are currently my favorite flavors. And as a note, once we sell a certain amount of stuff, I get my own flavor and my own cup, and you all know I'm gonna choose some degenerate shit that's gonna make their PR team squirm. My goal is to make them regret partnering with me. So please, use code ODDS at checkout to make my dream come true of making a PR team squirm.